There's an undeniable thrill in setting out on a wildlife safari, especially for those of us who crave that sense of unfiltered adventure, a raw encounter with Mother Nature herself. Getting a close look at majestic creatures roaming free in their natural habitat can be nothing short of breathtaking. Yet with all of that splendor comes an element of danger, and sometimes, what starts as an awe-inspiring journey into the wild can turn into an unspeakable nightmare. Safaris are often marketed as once-in-a-lifetime experiences, but in a few harrowing instances they've ended in unimaginable horror, claiming lives in the most gruesome ways. Whether due to an animal suddenly attacking, a random accident, or sheer misfortune at being in the wrong spot at the wrong time, these tragedies are stark reminders that the wilderness obeys no human rules or expectations. In this account, we will explore 5 disturbing safari tragedies that may give pause to anyone considering a foray into untamed landscapes. These are tales of expert rangers, wild animals gripped by rage, and devastating endings that no one could have predicted. Let's begin with an incident from December 2018 at Mikwi Game Reserve in South Africa, where the unpredictable fury of a massive bull elephant led to a horrifying scene at Leopard Rock Lodge. The victim, a highly respected guide named Mark Lenbach, was not just any ranger. He was also a celebrated wildlife photographer, well known throughout the country for his experience and skill. Nevertheless, as countless veteran guides have discovered, even the strongest familiarity with the wild can vanish in the face of pure, unbridled natural force. This 6-ton bull elephant had entered musth, a temporary physiological condition triggered by excessively high testosterone levels, causing it to snap with uncontrollable hostility. Witnesses describe how this colossal creature tore through a fence and marched into a tourist area, sending frightened onlookers scurrying for cover. Sensing immediate danger to visitors, Mark attempted to defuse the situation, a choice likely driven by his deep-seated responsibility to protect others. But nature's fury does not yield just because we want it to. In a matter of seconds, the elephant set its gaze on Mark with lethal intent. Observers later recalled the ground literally trembling as the bull charged, an unstoppable wave of muscle and tusks. Mark was struck down with brutal force, stomped and trampled until his injuries became catastrophic. The phenomenon of musth transforms bull elephants into some of the most precarious animals on Earth. During musth, testosterone surges up to 6 times the norm, effectively turning these already massive creatures into unstoppable engines of wrath. It's a time when even female elephants in heat avoid them, wary of their unpredictable aggression. For someone, no matter how prepared, to step in and try to calm such a giant is a dire gamble. In the words of one local expert who spoke under condition of anonymity, Mark was among the finest guides we had. He could read the wilderness like most of us read a newspaper. But this kind of rage is something nobody can rein in. When that elephant locked its focus on Mark, it was over before anyone could help. Ultimately, the rampage forced other rangers to make the grim choice to put the elephant down, fearing it might attack more humans in the days to come. Mark's death was more than just a shocking loss. It underscored an eternal truth about nature's capricious power. No matter how much expertise humans acquire, the wild can still strike mercilessly. Shifting our focus now to an event that occurred on December 1st, 2018, we find another tragic, though vastly different, safari horror. This time, the setting was Zimbabwe's famous Zambezi River, revered for its serene beauty, cascading waters near Victoria Falls, and abundant wildlife. On that particular day, which also happened to be her 37th birthday, Floridian traveler Kristen, often called Kristen, Yaldor decided to celebrate with her husband Ryan by taking a relaxed canoe trip. The plan sounded heavenly, gliding down calm waters, capturing stunning photographs, and spotting animals from a safe vantage point. But the Zambezi had its own narrative to tell. Moments after beginning their guided expedition, an ominous warning rippled across the water. A guide shouted, alerting them to a disturbance in the calm surface. Without warning, their canoe rocked violently, flipping over as though seized by an underwater explosion. Disoriented and drenched, Kristen surfaced just in time to see Ryan swimming with frantic urgency toward the riverbank. She followed as best she could, only a handful of strokes away from safety. Then, in a flash, an immense force wrenched her leg, pulling her under the water. Adrenaline replaced fear as she struggled for breath. She felt herself whipped from side to side, the invisible assailant's jaws clamping down with excruciating power. Having some previous familiarity with extreme wildlife scenarios, she once went diving with sharks. Kristen tried not to panic. She attempted to hold her breath and keep calm, even managing to graze the creature's rough skin with her fingers. In a fleeting moment, the grip relaxed, and for a split second she thought she might have broken free. Despite agonizing pain coursing through her shattered leg, she clawed her way to the shore. Her body screamed in protest, yet the sight of red swirling in the water beneath her told her everything she needed to know about the severity of her injuries. Guides applied a makeshift tourniquet. Ryan, hands trembling, called out for medical assistance. Nearby, other tourists who had been enjoying a routine game viewing experience witnessed the aftermath in disbelief. Kristen borrowed Ryan's phone and made a desperate call home. It was 2 a.m. in Florida, and her mother answered with a birthday greeting. All Kristen could whisper amidst waves of pain was, "No, Mom, I got attacked by a hippo." Few realize just how dangerous a hippo's bite can be. Their jaws can open up to an astonishing 150 degrees, revealing roughly 36 dagger-like teeth, including gigantic canines capable of crushing a canoe in two. Their bite force is enough to snap solid bones in seconds, and indeed, Kristen's close encounter illustrated precisely how quickly a calm safari moment can transform into a horror show. Though she survived, the physical and emotional scars would remain a lasting testament to the unpredictability of wild waters. Zimbabwe's iconic river had given her a birthday memory beyond anything she could have imagined, a lesson that even waters appearing serene might hide mortal threats. Traveling from Africa to Asia, we encounter a third tragedy. This one from July 2016 in the searing summer heat of Beijing, China. A family outing to Battling Wildlife Park, a location known for its drive-through safari that allows visitors to observe Siberian tigers up close from the comfort of their vehicles, quickly escalated into a catastrophe. The park's premise is that you stay in your car, windows rolled up, doors locked, and simply drive through tiger territory to witness these powerful cats in a semi-wild environment. But one moment of carelessness, coupled with rising tensions inside a vehicle, led to an incident that was as sudden as it was devastating, all captured on security footage. Inside a car on that blistering day, a woman later identified as Xiao argued with her companions. In a fit of frustration, she did something that defied all protocols. She opened the car door and stepped out, right into the heart of the tiger enclosure. Tragically unaware of the lethal danger lurking among the brush, she had mere seconds to realize her mistake. In a terrifying burst of motion, a fully grown Siberian tiger surged forward, clamping its powerful jaws onto Xiao and dragging her away before her companions could process what was happening. Horrified, her mother and another male passenger sprang out of the car, determined to save her. But in that realm of apex predators, heroic interventions often end in tragedy. Xiao's mother sprinted toward her, only to be met by a second Siberian tiger, this one larger with unstoppable ferocity. The beast attacked her with shocking speed and violence, ultimately taking her life. Every moment was caught on the park's surveillance cameras, footage that later circulated on social media, inciting public outcry. Viewers around the world watched in shock as tigers, among the most formidable carnivores on the planet, demonstrated their lethal prowess. By the time park officials and paramedics arrived, the damage was irreversible. Xiao, though severely injured, managed to survive. Her mother, however, perished from the mauling, sacrificed in a desperate attempt to rescue her daughter. The entire episode ignited furious debate in China and beyond. The park's guidelines clearly instruct visitors to remain in their vehicles at all times. Yet Xiao claimed she was unaware of the specifics of what she had signed. She believed the paperwork was a simple registration form rather than a stringent safety agreement. Furthermore, Xiao criticized the park for what she perceived as a delayed response, pointing to a park official who was supposedly stationed nearby but did not intervene. Though the legal disputes and controversies lingered, the core lesson was unambiguous. Nature's domain operates on survival instincts and brute force. Siberian tigers are among the most formidable predators alive, capable of overpowering prey far larger than themselves. Once they focus on a target, especially when that target has ventured into their territory, escape is a slim possibility. In one lapse of judgment, a family's day of adventure turned into a horrifying cautionary tale, culminating in a mother's ultimate sacrifice. The tiger exhibit at Battling Wildlife Park may still be operating, yet folks strolling through the gates these days carry a sober reminder of how quickly a serene encounter can turn into a life-or-death situation. For many Americans in midlife, such adventures offer a captivating escape until something goes wrong, and nature shows you it's not a theme park. Even the most careful traveler or wildlife enthusiast can suddenly face overwhelming danger, which is precisely what happened in two tragic cases separated by both time and geography. One took place on the sun-scorched plains just outside Pretoria, South Africa, in 2018, while the other unfolded on the silent waters of the Limpopo River in 2006. Back in 2018, a young woman, just 22 years old, learned the hardest possible lesson about how unforgiving the African wild can be. What began as an informal trip to a South African game reserve quickly spiraled into a horrific confrontation with a lioness, leaving behind questions and heartbreak. She had no intention of embarking on a dangerous escapade that day. In fact, she only went to the 3,200-acre Dino Kang Big Five game reserve to keep a friend company, since her friend was interviewing the camp's manager. The woman's identity never made the headlines, but her fate did. She was in the wrong place at precisely the wrong time. Situated not far from Pretoria, this expanse of land includes a lion sanctuary managed by Kevin Richardson, often nicknamed the Lion Whisperer. Richardson has spent years forming deep bonds with some of the most formidable predators on the planet. These are lions that many people see only in documentaries or from the safety of a safari jeep, but he walks among them with a confidence that has been honed by experience. For the 22-year-old visitor tagging along, it must have seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to glimpse these regal animals up close, marvel at their raw splendor, and perhaps snap a few photos that would stun friends back home. Nobody realized that the clock was already ticking toward a tragedy. On that fateful day, Richardson took 3 of his lions on their usual walk for exercise and mental stimulation, something he did so routinely it likely felt almost second nature to him. Conditions seemed as ordinary as ever. The lions, familiarly commanding yet seemingly calm, wandered through the reserve, supervised by Richardson and a colleague. Then everything changed without warning. A lioness, sleek and muscular, spotted an impala, a graceful antelope, meandering within view. The instinctive drive to hunt triggered in a heartbeat, propelling the big cat into a fierce chase. At first, it all went according to the natural order, predator pursuing prey. But the impala darted and wove through the terrain in a frenzied attempt to survive. The lioness, driven by the ancient thrill of the chase, tore across roughly 2 to 2.5 kilometers with astonishing speed. Her focus had tunneled completely on the fleeing impala, until a moment arrived when something else abruptly came into her line of sight. Unbeknownst to the young woman standing just outside the fenced zone, snapping pictures of the African landscape, she was about to become the hunted. It happened so fast that there was no chance to react. The lioness pounced with bone-crushing force, striking her down before she could scream or even turn to see what was coming. Paralyzed by horror, the woman's friend was forced to witness the brutal sequence of events. The lioness's teeth and claws, ending a life in the span of a heartbeat. The predator, panting and stained with blood, stood over the motionless body. Where moments before there had been the soft quiet of the bush, a new and terrible silence now took hold. Paramedics were called in immediately, their sirens punctuating the emptiness of the savannah. They arrived to find injuries so severe that saving her was impossible. As paramedic spokesman Nick Dahlman put it was a deadly attack, horrifying in its swiftness and finality. The friend, though unharmed physically, could only tremble in shock at the nightmare she had just witnessed. Kevin Richardson felt the loss deeply. He emphasized that this was not some rogue, bloodthirsty lion, but rather a tragic coincidence. In social media posts, he conveyed his devastation and extended his condolences to the victim's family. He stressed that his crew had given notice about walking the lions that day, following standard protocol. By all appearances, the lioness had simply been consumed with pursuing an impala, lost track of her surroundings, and collided with a circumstance that led to a fatal encounter. It didn't matter that the lion in question wasn't one of the unconfined, free-roaming lions of Dino Kang Game Reserve. A young woman had still lost her life. Far from the grasslands near Pretoria, another tragedy played out in 2006 involving a different kind of ambush predator. Dr. Richard K. Root, a prominent figure in medicine, learned this in a way that resonates as both haunting and tragic to this very day. A globally respected infectious disease specialist, mentor, and humanitarian doctor, Root had spent decades battling deadly bacteria around the world, helping develop modern protocols for sepsis management and guiding upcoming generations of doctors. At 68, he was nowhere near done making his mark, which is why the University of Pennsylvania's Infectious Disease Department invited him to Botswana to help address a severe HIV/AIDS crisis. In March 2006, he arrived in Botswana with the intention of staying for 2 months, offering his expertise to local medical teams. In between efforts to mitigate a devastating epidemic, Dr. Root also took the opportunity to appreciate Botswana's extraordinary wildlife. Massive herds of animals roam its national parks, and its winding rivers invite travelers to see a side of Africa often described in both scientific journals and tourist brochures as wild and majestic. This was precisely the kind of natural splendor that Dr. Root and the many Americans like him yearned to experience firsthand. On March 19, 2006, Dr. Root and his wife Rita joined a guided canoe safari through the Tule Nature Reserve, a trip that by all accounts should have been peaceful. Imagine the gentle slosh of the paddle, the rustle of tree branches along the riverbanks, and the steady sunlight flickering across the water. It's easy to feel a sense of tranquility in those conditions, maybe even a reverence for nature's calm. Beneath that seemingly placid surface, however, was an evolutionary predator honed by millennia. Dr. Root rode in the lead canoe next to an experienced guide, someone presumably familiar with Africa's myriad dangers. Rita followed in the second canoe, camera in hand, capturing snapshots of the kind of day that many couples dream about. In these final images, Dr. Root looks entirely at ease, blissfully unaware of what lay just beneath the rippling water. That serenity shattered in a single moment. A gargantuan Nile crocodile, believed to measure between 13 and 15 feet, launched itself from below the surface, its jaws clamping down on Dr. Root with surgical precision. The canoe rocked violently, though it never flipped over. It didn't need to. The crocodile's ambush had already succeeded. Within seconds, Dr. Root was hauled from his seat and dragged into the river's depths. Rita, only a few yards away, watched in helpless terror as the current swallowed her husband whole, leaving behind a deafening silence. Panic erupted among the safari group. They scanned the water, calling out desperately, but found no sign of Dr. Root. Word traveled swiftly, prompting a widespread search by local trackers and authorities. Days went by, 4 agonizing days. While hope dwindled, Rita clung to the tiny possibility he might have survived. But by the 4th day, the river released its grim secret. Dr. Root's remains were discovered near where he had been attacked, unmistakably bearing the lethal marks of a crocodile's jaws. In a cruel twist of fate, this towering figure in infectious disease research, who had devoted his entire career to combating human suffering, found himself utterly powerless in the face of a silent, prehistoric menace. His passing sent shockwaves through the international medical community. Former students, colleagues, and institutions around the world paid tribute to a man whose work had shaped modern understanding of sepsis and bacterial infections. At the heart of it all was the stark reminder that no intellect, no expertise, and no scientific achievement can outmatch the unpredictable might of the wilderness. For many Americans, Dr. Root's story strikes a nerve. It's not just the tragic end of a brilliant mind. It's a stark illustration of how even the best prepared and most knowledgeable individuals remain vulnerable in an environment where humanity's rules simply don't apply. The African bush is a realm governed by instincts and survival, worlds away from sterile labs and cutting-edge hospitals. In the end, Dr. Root was not the renowned physician who had saved countless lives. He became a victim in a place that shows neither favor nor mercy. Nile crocodiles, one of the deadliest predators found in the rivers of Botswana, Zimbabwe, and South Africa, average a bite force exceeding 5,000 pounds per square inch. Their signature death roll is infamous. Once they latch on, they whip their bodies in a twisting motion to tear limbs and flesh. Their attacks claim hundreds of human lives every year. Though these grim statistics rarely involve someone of Dr. Root's stature, that high profile is part of what made his death so chilling to observers everywhere. This wasn't an accident in a lab, a sudden illness, or the culmination of a long life peacefully concluding. It was a textbook ambush by a creature that has outlived many of the Earth's once dominant species, waiting for an unguarded moment to strike. Meanwhile, those who continue exploring Africa's rivers, plains, and wildlife parks may do so with heightened caution, but do not often abandon their adventures entirely. Places like the Dino Kang Big Five Game Reserve still invite tourists to volunteer, learn about conservation, and catch breathtaking glimpses of wildlife rarely seen elsewhere. Kevin Richardson's sanctuary continues to operate, even as it grapples with the memory of a terrible incident that tested the trust he has built with both animals and the public. Yet the sobering truth remains. All the training in the world doesn't mean a lioness will hesitate if you cross her path at the wrong time. Decades of life-saving medical practice offer no shield against the waterborne fury of a 15-foot crocodile. In both of these stories, Africa's wild corners served as the ultimate stage where primal forces hold dominion. Whether it's a lion's territory or a crocodile's river, the environment sets the rules, and the line dividing observer from prey can vanish in an instant. For the 22-year-old woman who ventured beyond the fence to capture that perfect photograph, it was a second too late when fate pounced. For Dr. Root, a tranquil canoe ride on the Limpopo became his final journey. Despite all the cautionary tales, many are still drawn to this land of breathtaking panoramas and exhilarating natural encounters, yearning for that sense of wonder and connection that can't be replicated at a zoo or on a television screen.